is Donald Trump once again talks about Canada becoming the 51st state. And you know what's funny about this? Like, the reason he continues to do this is because Canada is in a vulnerable position right now. We're an absolute mess. Let's just call it what it is. We're an absolute mess. The prime minister just resigned. There's no functioning government at this point. The dollar is an absolute joke. There's a whole bunch of fighting from within. It's a disaster. And he knows that. And he's taking advantage of that. But I'm going to play to you a clip on what he keeps going on about in regards to subsidizing Canada, okay? Because he keeps bringing up this point. Is a part of it true? Yes, I'm sure to a certain degree, but it's really not that simple. It's a little bit more complicated. So let me start off by sharing this with you, okay?
Dollars a year with Canada. That's because we allow them to make cars. We allow them to take lumber. We don't need their cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their food products because we make the same products right on the other side of the border. It's sort of crazy. So we've just allowed that, bad management has allowed it over the last 4 years in particular to become very imbalanced. And I said I call him Governor Trudeau, but he's Prime Minister Trudeau when he was Prime Minister. I asked him, why would we do that? Why? And he was unable to give me an answer. He said, I don't know.
Now, the thing that's concerning about that part is if Justin Trudeau actually says he doesn't know, I mean, that is just complete incompetence. And Trump has said that multiple times, by the way, and I haven't heard Justin Trudeau refute that. Let's continue.
And I said, do you think it's fair that we're paying $200 billion to keep Canada going? And what would happen? I asked him, what would happen if we didn't do that? If we didn't subsidize Canada? He said, we'd be a failed nation. And I said, then you should be a state. Because why are we paying all of that money to Canada when, we could use it ourselves, right? So we take care of their military. We're going to order about 40 Coast Guard big icebreakers, big ones. And all of a sudden, Canada wants a piece of the deal. They say, why are we doing that? I mean, I like doing that if they're a state, but I don't like doing that if they're a nation. Also, they've been very nasty to us on trade. Historically, Canada has been very, very bad to us, very unfair to us on trade. So we'll see how it all works out. I would love to see Canada be the 51st state. The Canadian citizens, if that happened, would get a very big tax cut, tremendous tax cut, because they're very highly taxed. And you wouldn't have to worry about military. You wouldn't have to worry about many of the things. You'd have better health coverage. You'd have much like with Canada.
Okay, so first of all the health coverage and all that kind of stuff there, don't put any belief into that whatsoever. That is just ridiculous. But I'll say this. He did mention about $200 billion in trade deficits, right? Now, I don't know what time frame he is looking at that. Now, maybe if you add it up over many years. But let me share my screen with you here. Okay, now, this is a U.S. government website. And as you can see, 2024, $55 billion deficit, which is true. And one thing he does have to realize is the U.S., which I'm sure obviously a lot of people know this, most of their oil is coming from Canada. Now, he says he doesn't need Canada's oil, which they actually get below market value. Doesn't need their lumber, doesn't need all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, no, you don't necessarily have to get it from Canada. But then you're going to go to Mexico, you're going to go to Venezuela. And I'm sure the relationships that you have with them are not going to be as good as the relationship you already have with Canada. And you've been getting your oil from Canada for a pretty damn long time at this point. So he's going to put these tariffs on. He said February 1st. He said February 1st. I believe he's going to do it. Now, many people are just saying it's a bargaining chip. Now, what is the reason for the tariffs in the first place? He mentioned that, excuse me. He mentioned that the reason he was putting the tariffs on is because Canada hasn't been taking care of the border and that illegal immigrants have been going through the border. And many of them are on the terror watch list, approximately 350 they found going into the US that are on the terror watch list. Also, there's a lot of fentanyl coming through the border through Canada. And those are the reasons that he gave. Now, are those reasons legitimate? I would say probably. But compared to what is going on at the Mexican border, I mean, it's a much smaller problem in regards to the fentanyl. I would assume, at least in regards to the people on the terror watch list, that's an issue. That's a major problem, and so I understand that. And some people may not think that's a big deal. It's a pretty damn big deal, considering the amount of people that we have going into the U.S. illegally is much lower than what is happening at the Mexican border. Then look at the rate of people that have not been vetted at all coming into Canada and then going into the US. So there is legitimacy there. That is a major problem. But these tariffs, if he puts those on February 1st and they start going elsewhere, like he mentioned, for their oil, that is going to cripple the industry in Alberta. And so I don't know what the hell is going to happen. I'm just going to have to wait and see. And to be completely honest, I don't want to be one of those people who tries to tell you that I know what the answer is. I really don't, because you don't want to get into a trade war. We don't want to get into a trade war because, I mean, you end up taking the L with that. And ladies and gentlemen, you're going to lose a lot. And I mean a lot of jobs in this country. They're assuming 500 to 600,000 jobs, which would be double of the unemployment rate that we have right now. So that would be a massive factor. So one thing that Pierre Poilievre has said many times, the amount of oil that we have, energy, why are we so dependent on the USA when the rest of the world is looking for these resources and is looking to purchase it from Canada, and we're not selling it to them? You can make a ton of money doing that, and they're not doing it. And this is what Pierre Poilievre is talking about. So now when somebody like Trump is in office and he's doing something like this and he has you by the you know what, you're in a bit of a problem now. There's trouble for you. You got to stop being so reliant on the US, and you got to open up your product to the rest of the world. You have to. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen come February 1st, but it's going to be interesting. It really is. I mean, Donald Trump, this dude is, I can't even blame the guy because Canada's in such a mess at this point. I really can't. It ain't. And listen, let's just be, once again, Trudeau.
It's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
It's a nasty situation. I'll tell you that